And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series.
Watson, touchdown! Hunter Renfrow.
He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers.
Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes not just cases, MotleyRice.com. Driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. End of the year is here, or near, at least. The deals are there at Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Download the JB and Goldwater app, and you can find us there, all about us, and at JB and goldwatershow.com, where now we have a landing page for the holidays. Your home for the holidays could be at jbandgoldwatershow.com. Check it out. 3 Seeds Wellness Studios, Wando Power Equipment, Stono Ferry. We have our apparel up there as well. It's time for Carolina football stuff, JB and Goldwater stuff. So if you're an online orderer for the holidays, you can head to our website. That could probably help you grab a few stocking stuffers sent your way. You can always go pick things up as well from any of our very respected partners. So check out jbandgoldwatershow.com. Follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. The Share Healthcare chat lines, they are open and they are ready for your input, and we'll plug in throughout the next couple of hours on our program, just like we'll plug in JC Shurburtt in his normal time slot, 12:30 to 1:30-ish. A few things to talk about with JC, and you never know how long that'll last. So looking forward to getting him in here. We got a bunch of hoops to get to today as well. The college football playoff rankings came out last night. The big fuss is Michigan State this week, so we're obviously going to talk about that and a few other things. But should be another good day. Plenty on the Gamecocks, certainly, with the contest coming up this weekend against the Auburn Tigers, welcoming Mike Bobo back to town and things of that nature. So should be a lot of fun around here. On the Share Healthcare chat lines, Craig's already, what's for lunch, everyone? I haven't eaten lunch, so nothing. What are you thinking? Would be I could do a DB's cheesesteak right now. I know that. But
I've already done my turkey, and like I told Craig in the chat room, I went crazy today and added roast beef to the turkey, which I like to do often.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So wait. Roast beef. Say that again. Roast beef and turkey sandwich.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
With some horseradish spicy mustard on there. Yeah.
Gotcha. Sounds yummy.
12:04. Last night, I'm sitting there watching the game, the College of Charleston game.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't get one thought out of my head. And it's a hell of a night for the College of Charleston. Regardless, I put it out there at halftime, regardless of how this thing ends, it's a great night for the college because Pat Kelsey was on display. The style he wants to play was on display. Most big name people that are in town and some from out of town were on display. It was a great atmosphere. I mean, that's a recruiting win right there for Pat Kelsey in a loss.
Yeah, and they had a chance to win it. You wondered at some point in time when North Carolina would kind of make some changes, and they did. Hubert Davis made some nice ones at halftime, and they were able to pull away from the Cougs 94-83. College has beaten them in that arena before. It was 11 years ago. as a matter of fact. And of course, they beat them back in '98. They've got history. We all know what it is. But had them on the ropes last night, and North Carolina able to put some points up on the board, specifically in the second half. Darren, they had no answers in the paint. Did the Cougars, and North Carolina survives that. Armando Bacot, the kid can play. He's a double machine, and he's probably going to be fairly helpful down the stretch for Chapel Hill, because they've got a hell of a schedule ahead. Duke and North Carolina, they always schedule these big dogs. Kentucky, Michigan State, the blue bloods of the sport. Every year you can count on November and December. They're going to be somewhere on ESPN or CBS on Sunday afternoons with primetime, big-time matchups. But this was a great – I really appreciate teams like the Blue Bloods who schedule games like this. It is a 2-for-1. Don't get me wrong. Cougs going to have to go up there twice and play in the Dean Dome. But they do schedule them, and I really appreciate that. And as you mentioned, it would not have been as huge for the Cougs if the name on the jersey on the other side wasn't North Carolina, because it brought that stage here in the college. I thought stepped up on it, and they played fairly well.
Yeah, and the reason that Blue Bloods will come to the college, because oftentimes these Blue Bloods won't go to top-notch mid-major programs or environments that could at least replicate a top-notch program. College is probably somewhere in between those. They hope to get back to that level one day. But it speaks to the long history of the college and John Kress and Bobby Cremins and the past that's able to tie this thing in because of all the relationships that they have. It's I thought last night was, like I said, just a win for the College of Charleston. There aren't many mid-majors. There aren't many non-Blue Bloods that are going to have a 6'10" guy like Bacot. So that sorry, guys, you're just not going to have. Those guys just don't exist. That's why he's at North Carolina.
Well, exactly. I mean, and I think too that when you pair that game, so they've been home to start the year for all 4 games, but remember the first day they played in the Rising Coaches Classic 3 straight days: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then they had Sunday, Monday off, and then they played on Tuesday. So you're talking about 4 games in 6 days to open the season, 3 in a row, and then a blue blood like the Tar Heels coming in. I think that's a great way to prepare your basketball team. And at the pace in which they play the college, I sometimes teams that play at that pace, they can't sustain that. But that's not the way that this team is built. They're built to sustain it. And so now they've kind of been thrown in the fire to start the season. They got another toughie coming up on Monday on the road, their first trip of the year away from TD Arena in Stillwater against Mike Boynton and the Oklahoma State Cowboys, who are 3-1. But then after that, I mean, I'm looking at the schedule now, Darren. They do have to go to Chattanooga and Tulane, and then you got Furman. You got Tulane again, which is really interesting. They've got a home and home with Tulane this year on the schedule. And I can't remember why that is. I don't know if it was thrown off because of the pandemic and they just rescheduled it. But I saw something about this not too long ago. But they've got Tulane November 30th here, and then they go to New Orleans on December the 7th. So about a week later, they play again. PC, Stetson, Rhode Island, ODU, and then into conference play. So they're like really they've really done a nice job of preparing themselves through OK State. Then they'll step back a notch in competition. I think they're going to have a really good non-conference, really good success in the non-conference, Darren, is what I'm getting at here, before they even get to conference play, where the rest of those teams are going to have a difficult time keeping. If the Cougs can hit shots, they're not going to lose a lot of games.
No,
I mean, they're going to win games.
Not the way they're playing, not with the depth that they're playing with. I mean, that's what they brought in with Pat Kelsey. Again, this couldn't be more of a 180 from what they've been with Grant, but this is exciting. This is a style of play that catches your eye. It catches the fans' eye. It catches the eyes of some recruits also. And outside of Oak State, the best 2 teams on that non-conference slate are probably Chattanooga and Furman right now. So then you get into CAA play, and I'm not sure if there are 2 or 3 teams in the CAA. I'm not that schooled on it yet Not sure if there are 2 or 3 that are going to go run much deeper than Furman and Chattanooga are going to run. So you're going to know a lot about the college by the time CAA play starts.
Oh man, no question. Here's a question for you: Are the college of Charleston Cougars the best college basketball team in the state of South Carolina?
Right now they are.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I honestly wouldn't. I mean, we haven't seen enough. I mean, it's one of those have fun with it type questions, and everybody can argue. But I mean, if you're Carolina, if you're Clemson, the 2 high profile programs in the state, or anybody else for that matter, but if you're South Carolina or Clemson, do you want to play the Cougars today? I don't know. So
today, right after their game with North Carolina, but
yeah,
not after a couple days.
Yeah, I think that right now, as it stands, this can change tomorrow. But right now, as it stands, I mean, it's basketball.
Will's right. Furman, they slipped my mind, even though I just mentioned them as a tough game for the college coming up. But they're in this state too, so it's them and Furman, right?
That's true. Yeah, Furman's really good. Bob Ritchie's on a lot of radars as well. So there's some of the best hot young coaches in hoops are right here in our borders. But nonetheless, even with the loss last night, congratulations to the college and that atmosphere. Students came out. Everybody was out there. Even saw Michael Flint and his dad, Big Fun, on TV. So right there behind the bench, and I texted Michael. I said, "Did you not think to change your wardrobe? You're there in navy blue, 2 rows behind the College of Charleston bench, and I know you're not a North Carolina fan." So. Yeah, that's just Flint for you. But elsewhere in hoops last night, before we get to the college football playoff rankings, an upset in the top 5. Seton Hall beat Michigan 67-65, handing the Wolverines their first loss of the season, and they are now at 2-1. The rest of the top 10, not a lot of teams played last night except for Villanova, Purdue, and Duke, and they all rolled in their ball games outside of the top 10, but in the top 25. Another upset happened in the Phil Knight Invitational at Oregon, and it was BYU beating Oregon. Oh, I mean throttling Oregon, 81-49. BYU is 3.
Yeah.
Remember Jimmer Fredette? He was he was the postseason name to know a few years ago. Jimmer.
Yeah. He was bombing him in from half court.
Yeah. Well, the Fighting Jimmers bombed it in last night on the Ducks. They made them squeak instead of quack. 81-49. A loss now at 2-1 is Oregon. Kentucky rolls over Mount St. Mary's. Alabama continues to win. They're pretty good, guys. Houston over Virginia last night by 20. That was a big score. Houston's good. And then the only other top 25 score, 78-61, Southern Cal over Florida Gulf Coast, who, if everybody remembers, a few years back, they were the high-flying dunkers in the postseason as well. That was a lot of fun to watch when they kind of hit the scene. So there you go.
And I want to say their former coach is at Southern Cal right now, unless he has one other stop under his belt.
I don't know. I don't have that information.
Yeah, I think now he's at ECU, if I'm not mistaken. I'll figure that out.
You Google that.
Yep.
You get on that. Tonight, there is hoops, and it's in Columbia. The University of South Carolina ladies take on the Clemson Tigers at 7 o'clock on the SEC Network Plus. South Carolina heavily favored in this game as the top team in the nation, expected to roll right over their rivals. Tonight is also ring ceremony and banner ceremony for last year's Final Four squad. Dawn, though, as much as will celebrate this, has been vocal in the fact that the next banner that comes down and the next rings that go on those fingers need to be national championship rings. And they're going to try to continue that march towards a title tonight by beating Clemson, which has been an up-and-coming women's program over the last couple of years, but not up-and-coming enough to handle the Gamecocks. I got a feeling it's going to be a long night for the Tigers at Colonial Life Arena. Again, it's a 7 o'clock tip in the Palmetto State Women's Hoops rivalry, and you can watch it on the SEC Network Plus. Carolina is coming off that 31-point victory over South Dakota up in Sioux Falls.
Andy Enfield. I was right. Florida Gulf Coast Dunk City was Andy Enfield. He is now the coach at Southern Cal. So if you're wondering how that game ended up on the schedule.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, that makes sense. Because, why else would you schedule the ball game all the way across the country against Florida Gulf Coast? A quick note, too, a quick hitter on tomorrow night's South Carolina UAB basketball game. This is on the SEC Network Plus, and I really wish that it wasn't. For Carolina fans who have overlooked this game in the non-conference schedule and looked ahead to what comes in December, Georgetown, Florida State, Clemson. According to the what do they call it, Darren? It's slipped my mind now.
Ken Palm, some type of ratings.
Yeah, the Field of 68's mid-major poll. UAB is the third-ranked team in the country amongst mid-majors, according to the Field of 68, which covers college basketball marvelously. If you've never paid attention to the Field of 68, they are really, really good, and they're really knowledgeable. UAB is pretty good. Carolina, I don't even know if it would be an upset if they got beat by UAB tomorrow night. I don't actually think that it would be. I think it would just be an outright win for UAB. So they better be very, very careful, and they're going to need to hit some shots to beat the Blazers at Colonial Life Arena tomorrow night. It's a big game in Columbia, so keep your eyes on that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a line out yet. Wouldn't shock me at all if UAB is favored in that game. And if Carolina's favored, it'll be slight because, UAB is a good team.
It'd be a home favorite. That's about it. That'd be about it. And before we get out of hoops, right back to the women for South Carolina. This is breaking news, and it shouldn't be shocking to anybody. But 5-star prospect from Cardinal Newman up in Columbia, Ashlyn Watkins, is staying in Columbia. She's chosen Dawn Staley and the Lady G's as her next home. So she's going to be another All-American to add to the roster at South Carolina for Dawn Staley. This is remarkable, man. And now, don't get me wrong, she's right in their backyard. Everybody probably could have predicted this, but sometimes you just don't ever know. And I guess the question, Darren, is at what point in time do all these 5-stars start thinking, well, I could go somewhere else and probably not have to compete with 10 other 5-stars to play basketball, but right now that's not happening.
I mean, I don't know. Ask UConn and REM when he went on that run, or ask Alabama football. If you can blend the, hey, we're awesome, we have the best talent on this team, and you can just come and be a part of that talent. If you can blend, you're going to play and we're going to go crush everybody.
It's amazing.
You can put a run together that can last. I mean, I just laughed when you said that because of the conversation we had last week of 5-stars and, more importantly, All-Americans. It was like 11 or 12 out of the 16 on the roster. I mean, that's what? That's absurd.
I've never seen that before. I've tried to do some research, but I got stalled because I couldn't get enough information to figure out if there's ever been a team, and really there's only 2 teams in college basketball that you would even be able to, that you even need to go research to try to figure this out, but which would be the Tennessee of old under Coach Summit, and then Gino's Huskies. Outside of that, there's really never been another women's team that's just been stacked with 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. I mean, there's been great women's teams. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But those were the teams that have dominated at some point in time. So you don't have to research past that. But I couldn't figure it out. I asked somebody maybe a few months ago, has there ever been another, it might have been Cloninger, has there ever been another women's team with all these, as many 5-stars as they have? And the response was, not that I'm aware of, but that's not, it's not official either. So we'll see, but it's just an amazing run for Dawn Staley. The 12th ranked prospect, by the way, in the class of 2022. All right, into football we go. Darren, last night's college playoff rankings came out, and they were what I thought they would be. Georgia, Bama, Oregon, and Ohio State, Cincinnati, Michigan, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, and Wake Forest round out the top 10. How about Wake? Wake's got Clemson this week, so let's keep our eyes on that and what happens in front of them. The big dilemma today, there's one every week or two, but the one that everybody is now discussing is what's happening in the state of Michigan. And why are the Wolverines ranked ahead of Michigan State when Michigan State beat them earlier in the season? And then you look just further up the rankings where Oregon and Ohio State played earlier this year, and they're 3-4, and Oregon beat Ohio State head-to-head, and they're one spot ahead of them. So I actually think they have an argument there. But again, I'm not really arguing whether someone is better or not better or whatever. I share, I think, the same concerns that a lot of people do, and what seems to be a lot of inconsistencies in ranking the programs.
Yeah, they've been consistent for 2 weeks in doing it, but there are inconsistencies in what they're doing. I mean, that was my point last week too. When that first happened, it was okay. Yeah, I get the fact that Michigan State followed up their win over Michigan with a loss, and that's what you remember most. But it was like 9 days prior. This was the last ranking 9 days ago that Michigan State had beat Michigan, and you put Michigan ahead of them. And the whole Oregon-Ohio State thing, can that work itself out? Absolutely, that can work itself out. Same with the Michigan State thing, as Ohio State and Michigan State all go through each other in the next 2 weeks. So it'll sort itself out. Notre Dame's kind of hanging around on the edge. Who knows what happens with Cincinnati? By the way, I think they lose this week and it's not an issue anymore. And but this has been consistent. Now the question's going to be at the end of the year, right? If Ohio State wins out, do they jump Oregon at some point? Do they, if Oregon wins out and they say Ohio State's playing the better ball now? Maybe, but if that's the way they go, then their inconsistency here will just be even more, I guess, enlarged, right? If they suddenly flip what they're doing at the very end, which a lot of people, me included, can see happening.
Yeah. I mean, so there's so much really that you could discuss in this top 25, but what obviously matters is 1 through 4 and what dances around 1 through 4 as to how they can get into the playoff. All right, so let me throw this out there. All right, Bama's 2.
Mm-hmm.
All right, at 9-1. Okay, and Cincinnati is 10-0 at 5, and they do have to Cincinnati's credit, these last 2 games are not going to be cupcakes for them. SMU's pretty good. They're 8-2, 4-2 in the league, and they've got them this weekend at home, 3:30 on ESPN if you want to check that out. And then the one that scares me more than that one, though, is the road trip to East Carolina to end the season, the Friday after Thanksgiving against Mike Houston's Pirates. It's also a 3:30 kick on ABC. And ECU, if nobody's paid attention, is 4-2 and 6-4 now on the season. Like they've gotten things clicking.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, my question, Darren, is this. All right, so Houston, remember when Houston beat SMU?
Mm-hmm.
A couple weeks ago. All right. Yep. So and going into that, you and I had discussed, I think you had said, well, they need SMU to win. Cincinnati does, but as we're kind of seeing it now, they're going to get a crack both at SMU and at Houston. So the fact that Houston is doing what they're doing, 9-1, 7-0 in the league, that means they're going to probably, if Cincinnati wins the next 2 games, play in the conference championship game, which would be another feather in the cap for the Bearcats. But my question is, if they go undefeated and they finish 13-0, with this is a difficult stretch. I mean, these are the 3 best teams left in the league outside of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Bama wins out and then loses a squeaker, which is very possible in the SEC championship game. Is that they think that Bama's good enough to be 2. If they hang with the team that everybody thinks far and away good enough to be 1, like by a long shot, and they're in there into a field goal game and they have 2 losses, you win and you lose in whatever decision you make here, right? Because you're sitting here going, well, wait a second, though. Bama is really good, but they have 2 losses, but Cincinnati's undefeated. So I think this literally could be the year, because it would be Bama, Darren, with 2 losses, where really there's some flames that start getting thrown across the country over this.
And if it was really anybody other than Bama, Georgia, and say Clemson, if they were having a Bama type of year and we could just swap the name, then it wouldn't even be a discussion, because the name would carry some weight. At some point, the games have to matter, though, right? I mean, if you lose twice and then you compare that resume to a team like Cincinnati, who, if they can win these next 3 games, which, by the way, they could lose these next 3 games as easily as they could win these next 3 games. just based on how they're currently playing.
Right.
Because if you haven't watched a lot of Cincinnati, and I know a lot of folks probably haven't because it's not SEC and you kind of know they're on the fringe and whatnot, it's their defense this year more so than their offense. It's not this like, I don't know, high-powered juggernaut, even though they do have a good quarterback. But if they go through it and don't lose, and Alabama drops a game, it would put the committee off the hook if other things happen and both teams can get in the playoffs and you can rationalize it how you want. If it's coming down to the two of them, it's going to be interesting. It really is, because at some point the games have to matter. They have to matter at some point, regardless of if it's a 14 playoff or a 12 team.
Yeah.
But what's the committee going to say? I don't know, because right now they're saying the games don't matter if Michigan's ahead of Michigan State. All right. And right now you've got Ohio State behind Oregon, so that game mattered. I don't know what their mind is going to be at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the committee, honestly, if they really truly believe in Alabama, I think the best case scenario is Oregon gets upset at Utah this weekend, which that would knock them out.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State wins out, Cincinnati wins out, and honestly, unless it's just a full-on throttling by three or more touchdowns, or you could probably back that up a little bit to 2 or more touchdowns in the SEC championship game, I think you kind of have your top 4. I mean, honestly, even if it's a 2-loss Bama, you probably end up plugging them in there at 4. Ohio State probably goes to 2, and Cincinnati goes to 3. Granted, if they win out, because if Ohio State wins out, Michigan State has 2 losses, Michigan has 2 losses, Ohio State has 1 loss early in the year against Oregon, who would now have 2 losses since then. They're out. Ohio State wins in, Cincinnati wins in, Georgia wins in, and Bama eases in by default. And even, or the best case scenario is Bama upsets them in the national championship game. You're not going to knock Georgia out on that anyways.
In
the SEC.
Right, yeah. In that scenario, it's hard to argue that. Then you're going to have Notre Dame and Oklahoma State. Let's assume they both win out. You're going to have Notre Dame and Oklahoma State right on the outside at 5 and 6 probably, saying, hey, what about us? We've won, lost, right? Like, Oklahoma State's resume is good, and they got work to do, and they need work ahead of them to be done, like a lot, because your scenario is very plausible. Oregon loses somewhere, let's say this weekend, where they're underdogs.
Yeah.
And Ohio State wins out. And if that happens, Ohio State is in. Georgia, we know, is in. Probably Bama. And if Cincinnati wins out, where it could get really interesting is if I'm right about Cincinnati and they do drop one of these 3, if not multiple. Like I've already said, I think they lose this week, because then you bring all these 1-loss teams to the table, all of them.
Yeah, I hear you there. In theory, I think you're right, but based on how they've been treated to this point, 1-loss Cincinnati, I don't think has a prayer, Darren.
No.
Oh, okay. I see.
But
so
Oklahoma
you agree with
State,
that?
Oklahoma State's going to be sitting right there. You're going to have,
gotcha.
I don't know, whichever other 1-loss team, but Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, right there.
Yeah, if Oklahoma State, I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's the fun scenario.
Yeah,
let's just have Cincinnati lose and get out of the way. Put Group of 5 over on the side. Sorry, and let's play it out the way it should be.
Yeah, it's it could play itself out. I mean, again, everybody that has found reasons to argue against Cincinnati's schedule, and again, and look, and rightfully so in a lot of different areas, because it's not like they blew out all these teams. Like, we have to go back to what happened in the games. They've won them all, but they didn't look great in doing a lot of them, which you obviously need to do. And when you compare their schedule up against the schedules of the Big Ten, the schedules of the SEC, no, there is no comparison. Like, I'm sorry, everybody, it's not there. You can say the games matter all you want to, but, playing who Cincinnati has to go throughout the season, Navy and Tulane and South Florida and things of that nature, and then going up against who Ohio State has to play every weekend, or Bama or Georgia, there's a difference there. But with all that being said, Cincinnati will gain ground on that argument over the next 3 weeks, especially if they win all 3 of these games, because you could argue whether we think East Carolina is a quote unquote good team, but that is a really difficult road game. Houston is a pretty good team, and SMU is a pretty good team, and both of them could compete in these other leagues. I'm not saying they go out and win 9 or 10 games, but they could compete in these other leagues. Maybe floating around 500 or a little bit below it. So there will be some ground gained in that argument for Cincinnati about their schedule if they go out and take care of business and do it the right way.
I agree. If they go out and they win out, like I said, at some point the games have to matter, right? If they go out and they finish undefeated and go through this little blip that they've gone through and then finish this out with SMU, ECU, and Houston, probably. At some point, the games have to matter. Now, that throws a big wrinkle into my let's have fun and knock Cincinnati out and have a couple one-loss teams knocking on the door. That would be fun. That would be interesting to me. It's going to go one of those two ways.
Yeah, it's certainly. Jamie chimes in here on the Share Healthcare chat lines. I think the issue with that, obviously talking about Alabama and Georgia, if they both made it in, Darren, is you would have Bama versus Georgia in a rematch in the semis, and I think the committee will avoid that. And you know what? You might be right. I don't know. They always say that that's not their goal. Their goal is to just rank the top 4 teams and let them play, but we don't know. I mean, they can say that we don't know. I'm not accusing them. I'm just saying you just don't know.
It'd be a nice, convenient caveat if you want to say, even though they'd never admit it, by putting Alabama up at 3 at that point, so that's not in the semis.
Yeah, and Clint, before we get to break here, you're right. And Clint, you guys are making a great place for an 8-team playoff. Well, it's not going to be an 8-team. When they expand it, it's going to be a 12-team. But yeah, I mean, I honestly believe if there was any year that has made the case for it right now, it's playing out like this could be the year for that, simply because I think there's one, and then you've got Darren. I don't know if I'd go all the way to 10, but I'd say you have 2 through, well, maybe. I mean, look, the way that Wake Forest plays football, like, I think they could beat a lot of those teams in front of them on the right day. Like, I do. I don't know that they're consistently better than Michigan or Michigan State or something like that, but you mean to tell me, like, that Wake couldn't beat one of those teams on a good day, couldn't beat Cincinnati? Couldn't beat Notre Dame? I think they could. Yeah.
It's a good example. Yes, they could. Their defense isn't good enough to go through a playoff and win, but on a given day, they could win.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason I'm saying that is just to kind of back up that what Clint is saying there. Like, if there's any year where there is an argument for the expansionists, here it is, because you literally have like 2 through 10 who you can almost shuffle around at times and make an argument for all of them in some way, shape, or form. So, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's a neat conversation to have. All right. JC Shurburtt brings a lot of neat conversations to the table, and he is standing by waiting patiently in Chicago, Illinois. Hang tight. When we return, the owner of the Big Spur joins us right here on the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And 2 others you probably don't think much about: stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor, Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Your online radio. The new online radio that makes you happy.
I got honeybee beating on my screen door. I got a little buzz in my head. So
Cause we come from a long line of sinners like me. La-di-da, la-di-da, la-di-da.
And you were listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
Don't cry for me when I'm gone. Just put a quarter in the jukebox and sing me back home.
All right. 1 month from today, JC Shurburtt. 1 month from today, finally, I reunite with the Chief in Greenville, South Carolina. And I just cannot wait. I've already sent him a text and said, I haven't seen you since Wyoming. He said, I know, man. Don't worry. You know, we got you, all your drinks and stuff backstage. And so we're looking forward to that. 1 month from today. Don't contact me while I'm enjoying myself with the rest of the church choir. Hey, JC, how are you?
Anything good going on this week?
No, nothing, as a matter of fact. Whoa, yeah, 1 month from today.
Yeah, we cleared them 1 month and change. Now it's 1 month from
countdown begins.
He's coming to going to be at the United Center in January, so it'll be bitterly cold at that point. But I am going to go. Is
it fairly cold in the Chicago area in January?
In January, it sometimes is. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Think?
I just didn't know.
I'll go see it and I'll take a picture of myself beside the Jordan statue for you guys and make sure we share all that. So.
I don't care about that.
Have you gone to any of the Bulls games? If I live by an NBA arena,
I'm not an NBA fan at all. I'm
not either.
I think the style of play in the NBA has gotten a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But after like the Jordan and Bird and Magic Johnson and human highlight film Dominique Wilkins, and after that era kind of went south, and we're kind of in the Shaq and Kobe era. I lost interest because the games were like watching college basketball nowadays. They were just ugly and all that. But I respect the NBA. I think some of the greatest athletes in the world. But unless I got free tickets, and probably they'd have to be in a suite where I got free drinks and food, I probably won't be going to a Bulls game. Now, hockey's a different deal. So, I would go to a hockey game. But
we all
not NBA.
Hockey games are fun.
Oh, lots of
that's
fun.
What I hear in person. They're a lot more fun than like watching on TV. So that's
Oh yeah, it's one of the better in-person sport experiences.
I mean, they say it's totally different. So I'd go to one Blackhawks game. They call them the Hawks, so it kind of confuses me because I think Atlanta Hawks, and it's not. That's not it. There, let's go to Hawks.
And a beef
Hocks. Polish sausage
and a beef sandwich.
Beef sandwich. Hawks.
Oh man, we had
Hawks and the socks. hot snacks, beef sandwich, Polish sausage.
We replaced some of our BS convo for the week with with Mike Morgan yesterday. We just hung around with Mike for about 20 extra minutes and just shot the breeze. I don't even know what we were talking about, but we did. So,
Mike Morgan. Hi.
Hey,
I'm recording a JC. We're recording a JC and Morgan later, so I'll get to hear him talk. You know, I love the way Mike talks.
Yeah,
because he'll say something sometimes, and it's like if one of us said it, it'd sound differently. But he's like, like one day I was like, he likes hot dogs, right? Mike's a friend of mine, and my girlfriend likes to like send things like food to people as a thank you for being a friend, like the Golden Girls or whatever. Okay. And so we sent him some Chicago hot dogs, and I was like, got you a gift coming. He was like, a physical gift? I was like, yes, Mike, a physical gift.
No, it's a thought.
He's not Anchorman, man, because it's funny. It's sometimes funny when some of those things. I love Mike though. He's a great friend of mine, and certainly there are worse radio segments than having Mike Morgan on for 20 more minutes.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. He is a fantastic person. As is JC. This segment is brought to you by iHelp Consulting. How can I help you? iHelpConsulting.com. If you need to save some cash and you don't know how to do it, they do know how to do that. Daniel Owens and his team are really good at it. As a matter of fact, they've saved hundreds, thousands of dollars for companies all over this state, locally owned businesses. I mentioned the healthcare facility yesterday. They saved $50,000. They saved $40,000 for an auto shop. $40,000. You can go out and hire another employee and pay him for the whole year on salary. It's amazing what iHelp Consulting can do. So if you're a business owner, Clint, Marion, if y'all are business owners, or if you know somebody that is, it's very easy. It doesn't cost you a dime. Trust me, if it did, we would not be partnered with iHelp Consulting. Just go look at the website. Hey, wait, we do that. Maybe they can help me. Give them a call. And if they can save you money, it's just a small fee out of the amount of money that you save. iHelpConsulting.com. All right, JC. So let's just get to the elephant in the room here with Coach. We'll get to the game in a little bit, but obviously this week the shakeup at Virginia Tech has Shane Beamer's name floating around for it. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's neutral. I mean, it's to be expected because of his last name, and I know that there's probably a lot of Hokies up there that wouldn't mind seeing it, but and a lot of Gamecocks that are, quite frankly, ridiculous. Well, hope it goes. No, he's got the job he wants. He's very clear about that. I don't think there's any kind of negative thing about him being mentioned. In fact, I think it's a net positive because one of the unfair knocks on him was nobody else would want to hire him, whatever. It's stupid stuff. And I talked about it on the Inside the Gamecocks podcast today. What's important and what's not. And there's like 9 things I listed this is important, and then 9 things I listed that are not important. And Shane Beamer, Virginia Tech, is one of them. I just for years, I have known for a fact, folks, it's not my opinion, that Shane wanted the South Carolina job over the Virginia Tech job. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, it's not that he's not a proud Hokie and, loves Virginia Tech and pulls for him and doesn't like Virginia, that kind of thing. It's not that. It's that, when your name is beat, like the Bowden kids never really wanted that Florida State job.
Right.
Tommy obviously went to Clemson and, we saw what happened there, but, he always talked about this is my destination job. This is where I want to be. Terry went to Auburn and has taken a series of other jobs since. But the Bowden kids never wanted that job. I'm sure Jay Paterno would have loved to have taken over for his dad, but he's horrible. And so he didn't get that chance. And Skip Holtz, would he have probably at some point listened to Notre Dame had they called? Yeah, but that's also tough. I mean, there's probably enough time that it's elapsed where Skip went to Notre Dame, he'd be fine. But, it's just one of those things that doesn't really happen that often, as far as the son taking over for the father. And usually when it does, it could lead to complete disaster. I mean, you got to be realistic about these things. And so
when has it ever worked?
I don't know when it has ever worked.
Has it ever even
unless
happened?
There's some coach like back in the day.
I've never even seen anything like
that. All right, so let's go hype it. What if Jim Harbaugh had taken over for Jack Harbaugh at Western Kentucky? That would have worked. But he never went there, and Harbaugh's a Michigan guy anyway. I don't remember there being any little Schembechlers walking around at Michigan or wherever. I just, a lot of coaches have daughters too, so it's not, there's no, chance of that happening. And a lot of coaches like Nick Saban's kid is Nicholas he's in a band, he's a musician, no interest in coaching football. And it's not that people that have fathers that are coaches or guys that have coaches that are fathers are not successful. I mentioned Saban. Saban's father was a coach. He was the youth league coach. And there's a lot of stories about how he molded Nick into who he was. But as far as like guys taking over for their dad, it's never really worked. And it would have been interesting back in 2001 had Lou Holtz hung it up at South Carolina, because had that happened after those 3 years, Skip would have taken the job and we would have seen sort of how that would have worked out. It never had a chance of happening under Steve Spurrier. We know the reasons why. But let's say Steve Spurrier lucked into some small job and we find out, wow, he's a good head coach, not really good at some of the other things, but good head coach, and he wins. The Gators may come calling. I mean, would he go take Florida over? I don't know. I don't know. That's interesting, but there's just not a lot of sample size there. And as much as people want Shane, and really the info has come out from the upstate a little bit about Beamer, and then there's some people that have written about it or whatever that don't really know what they're talking about. And then the Gamecock fans that are mad at him, that didn't like the hire to begin with, they're going to talk about it. But there's been absolutely nothing there the entire time. And it would be a different story, I think, if Shane campaigned for that job like he did at South Carolina. Do I think he could go land that job if he called in enough, maybe, yeah, because he's well-liked and Hokie fans love him. But there's just not interest. And so that's like the nothing burger of the week, in my opinion, the Shane Beamer Virginia Tech thing. I know on 24/7 we had somebody wrote a big article, he shoots it down and all that. But, I mean, look, I heard 3 weeks ago Fuente told his players he was out, right? And Napier's name's been up there today. I'm hearing Dave Clawson. There are a lot of other names that have been tied to that job where I think if they were focused on Shane, or that they thought they had a shot to get Shane, or if Shane was pushing for the job, you would have heard his name a little bit more than some of these other guys, especially with the people that I talked to about it. So
JC, let me ask.
That's one school that I've got a little bit of connection to besides South Carolina, Virginia Tech. So I think there's nothing to it.
Let me ask you this. I know your name is Shane Beamer, so you can't necessarily speak for him, but does Shane want to be at South Carolina instead of Virginia Tech because he wants to carve his own path and this is the place that he wants to do it? Or is it because he just thinks that South Carolina maybe is a better job for him, or a better job in general?
I think both in a lot of ways. I would disagree with Shane Beamer if we're talking about jobs, and, because when you're talking about jobs in college football, first and foremost, you have to take the emotion out of it. And secondly, fans are like, this is not a good job. When you're losing, it's not a good, who would, Gamecock fans love to fall on the sword, and they talk like Foghorn Leghorn. Who I say would take this job right now because nobody will want to come here and coach this team. I swear, I say, none of that's true. Jobs, you look at path of least resistance, resources, somewhat tradition. Do you have support? Do people show up for your games, for example? And can you recruit to that school? Where are, the talent pockets, and path of least resistance is important. And Virginia Tech, because they're in the ACC, but also because football is very popular. People don't understand this about Virginia Tech. You hear Tech, you think like Georgia Tech, small school, engineering, whatever. It's not. Virginia Tech is actually like the State University of Virginia, because UVA is a public Ivy, Thomas freaking Jefferson, all that happiness. UVA, Carruthers, hand me the wine. I think I'll have another one before we go in. Okay, it's a bunch of wine and cheesers, and they're good at football sometimes, and sometimes they're not. But where everybody goes, if you're just like an in-state guy or gal and you want to go to college, and you're like, oh, well, I guess I'll just go to Virginia Tech. It should be called Virginia State, but Virginia State is a school in Norfolk that's an HBCU, so it's not a tech school, although it's called Tech. And so you're basically the State University of Virginia. Now, geography hurts them because they're way in the southwestern part of the state. They're not close to Nova. They're not close to 757. They're not towards Richmond. They're way over there. But they make it work. And, if you're looking at the ACC and you're looking at kind of the path of least resistance, and you're looking at tradition and you're looking at support right now, Virginia Tech is a better job than South Carolina. It's not going to pay as much. You're not going to have the pool of money that you have to hire assistants, but it is a better job. But I don't think Shane Beamer thinks that. I think he thinks South Carolina is a better job because he was at South Carolina when South Carolina was knocking on the door. And, he sees the positive potential in the Gamecocks gig. Most coaches, though, would probably take Virginia Tech. So, that's the deal there. But I'm convinced Shane Beamer thinks South Carolina is a better job. In fact, I know that. And I think that, he still feels, regardless of, whatever's happened this year, that this is where he wants to be. I mean, and so it's, to me, the Virginia Tech talk was, a combination of people that, are just trying to kind of put two and two together, and they're just guessing. And then people that have an agenda, i.e., if you cover the other team in the state and, you're wanting to stick your finger in the eye of the Gamecocks, you're going to start and get them riled up. You're going to talk about it. And then if you're a Gamecock fan and, you're convinced after 10 games and based on all that body of work, all this thing, that Beamer's just not the answer, then you're going to probably hope and wish the same thing. But that's exactly what it is. There's absolutely nothing to it. I will get on here and sing a cappella the Virginia Tech alma mater if Shane Beamer ends up at Virginia Tech. And I will admit I'm wrong, and I will never, ever say anything strong again, because that would really make me question a lot of information. So if he ended up with that one.
You did just kind of make me hope
Shane,
it happens.
I was about to say, Shane, if you're listening, for the love of God, do not leave the state of South Carolina. My personal thought on a lot of what you just said, JC, I don't know that this is necessarily the case always outside of Georgia, but I mean, it's, the Coastal Division in the ACC is, any program there has a chance. That's not the case in the SEC East, because Georgia sits there and we know what Florida generally is. And then after that, you usually have somebody who's having a pretty good year, in which case, over the last decade, South Carolina's been that team at times, Missouri's been that team at times, Tennessee's been that team at times, Kentucky has been that team at times, Vanderbilt hasn't. So it's probably a little bit easier to win in that division over there. But that's neither here nor there. The question I have for you is actually a statement that Darren made yesterday, and I think there's a lot of truth in this, actually. If we take the garnet colored glasses off, if you're a Carolina fan for a second, take those off and put them down. JC, right now South Carolina is 5-5. Keep in mind, you, me, Darren, And everybody that's listening to this show, watching this show, or that's on these Share Healthcare chat lines has, for the most part, watched every single play that's happened this year. So our view and our angle is a little differently. Okay, those of us that are invested in it. The rest of the country sees a team that won 2 games last year, 4 games the year before, and they've won 5 this year, and they got a chance to win another game or 2. So Darren mentioned yesterday that the thought amongst the rest of the country, I'm going to leave you about 3 minutes to answer this, and we got to get to a break. But Shane Beamer's done a pretty good job. Maybe he's actually done a little turnaround job at South Carolina. But in this state, he's not getting any credit for it because we've seen literally move for move what it's looked like. So how do you think that he is perceived around the country for the job that he's done through the first 10 games? I mean, would Virginia Tech, would his name be floated out there if South Carolina was 2-8 right now?
Probably not. It's kind of funny who mentioned Shane's name. It was Dennis Dodd, and I'm like, well, dude, Dennis, you haven't been wrong about a single coach as much as you've been wrong about Shane Beamer. You're going to throw his name out there for Virginia Tech, and the word he used was respectable at South Carolina. And I think that's a function of the Gamecocks have dropped in terms of relevance. I mean, that's been an issue even before Shane got the job.
Yep.
And that's not going to change until there's more Saturdays like there was with Florida. And then even then you saw it was more about Florida than the Gamecocks. And that's just how it is right now in our college football world that's, been condensed in terms of relevance because of the playoff and because of whatever reason. And the Gamecocks hadn't helped themselves. They have not been able to establish some momentum. Like Arkansas finally got some run this year because what did they do? They strung together wins. They beat Texas. They beat Texas A&M. They were off to a good start, and people started talking about them. And that's what's going to help the relevance thing with the Gamecocks. But as far as like the outside perception, I'm sure they're sitting there going 5-5, and I think people here would be fine with 5-5 in terms of like, if it had unfolded in a different way. And I think when you look at it, you're like, well, this team could be 7-3 if it weren't for, the obvious issues we've talked about on offense, which unfortunately reared their ugly head again this past weekend for absolutely no reason. Yeah. So,
but to be fair though, they could also be 2-8. And I know people don't want to hear this because I'm an optimistic guy myself. I'm a glass half full dude all the time. But I mean, when you honestly look at it, JC, again, they could be 2-8, they could be 7-3. 5-5 is probably right about where they should be then.
Yeah, and I think when you look at, let's say East Carolina would have been 34-17 instead of 20-17, and Troy would have been 37-14 instead of 23.
Spot on. And blowout.
Vanderbilt would have been the blowout that it should have been.
That's right.
I think people are much less concerned. And I also think had Will Muschamp gotten fired after years of losing games 56-51, where the offense was clicking and not an issue, then I think people would be even a little more different, because but this program in general and the worry for Gamecock fans, or what I worry about some fans is for some of these cats, Muschamp never left. And it's like a mental issue almost, because it's like they can't discern the fact that there's a new coach and that maybe you give him a little bit of time as the head coach. And yes, I think we all agree the offense needs to be fixed yesterday. But, you're sitting there talking about like we need to fire him after 8 games. I mean, the only reason you're saying that is, number one, is because you're not able to comprehend in your mind that Muschamp is gone. And then I think a lot of it also has to do with people believing that anything Coach Tanner does is wrong. And so, you don't give Muschamp or Beamer a fair shake, or Kingston or anybody else, because, oh my God, Ray can't hire anybody, and those things are in the not important category. Like I talked about on the podcast today. That those are the people that are making a big deal out of this, that, and the other. I think everybody else kind of realizes, all right, there's a fix that has to be made. But Shane Beamer deserves a chance to fix it. And when you look at the big picture, I think the program is headed in the right direction in terms of what they've got and what's happened in terms of players getting better. One side of the ball is overachieving, that kind of thing. So
yeah,
that's kind of my take on that.
We're going to hit a timeout. We did have a question from RB. What are the current odds on the next Virginia Tech coach? So we'll get to that, RB. Hang with us, buddy. We'll get to that when we come back. Well, obviously, we'll look back at the Missouri loss for South Carolina and look ahead to the pair of Tigers left on the schedule, starting with the first one, Auburn, on Saturday night on ESPN. Hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. We'll be right back. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and two others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Roberts, owner of 3 Seeds Wellness Studios. And just like being in your favorite ballpark feels like home, our studio feels like home to our clients. We offer over 20 different services to help our guests cultivate, nourish, and grow their bodies and minds. Centrally located in the heart of West Ashley, we offer massages, facials, acupuncture, yoga classes, and everything in between, helping you become that you want to be. A complete list of services are available online, and gift cards are available both online and for curbside pickup. Go to 3seedswellnessstudios.com. Happy holidays.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
live, loud, and online.
All right, 105, final hour on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, stokesvw.com. Make sure you follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, and individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater, and at JC Shurburtt, for that matter, owner of the BigSpur.com here to start off hour number 2 with us, as he generally is on Wednesdays, and then he'll rejoin us on Friday for the big Gamecock preview show. Real quick as well, Darren and I, JC, we're going to break this news to you on the air. Will not be on the air next Wednesday. We're going to give you the day before Thanksgiving off. Darren is going to be traveling, and I am going to be doing not this. And we will be back on Friday, though, before Clemson and Carolina, but we're going to air that morning from 10 to 12. So we got some details to work out there. But that's just a quick programming note for everybody out there who so loves Darren Goldwater. You'll only have to miss him for 2 days next week around the holidays. Speaking of the holidays, before we get JC to jump back in there and we get to a couple of your questions and then actually into some football stuff for South Carolina, if you're in the Low Country, let me tell you about Three Seeds Wellness Studios in West Ashley. It is centrally located. And they literally offer every service known to everyone. When it comes to taking care of yourself, whether it's a massage or if you've got to get a gift for your wife and you don't know what to get her, maybe she needs a facial, maybe she wants to start yoga or Pilates, maybe she's into the Botox stuff. Literally anything you could think of. There's over 20 services at Three Seeds Wellness Studios in West Ashley, and I've gotten to know them pretty well. They have kept my wife out of my hair. They've kept her happy, which in return makes it happy around here, especially after Carolina loses. She's much calmer, and that makes me much calmer. 20-plus professionals at Three Seeds Wellness Studios in West Ashley with decades of experience. So if you got a significant other who've maybe got some mucky-looking teeth and you feel like they need some teeth whitening, go get them a gift card. They can take care of that that stank look and breath.
They're going to take care of your teeth if you give them a gift card for their teeth, is what they're going to
do. Well, so all right. With all that being said, again, Three Seeds Wellness Studios, they're our partners for the holidays. Well, by the way, we're going to do a bunch of giveaways coming up here as we get closer to Christmas. So if you want to win some stuff. But JC, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but you know this guy, so I have to tell this story. And this is where I got this from. Sometimes the best ideas are stolen. A few years ago, you know Brent Johnson, formerly of 107.5 The Game, one of the great dudes in radio. I love Brent Johnson, and he should still be in sports radio. After a Carolina football game a few years ago, my wife and I are actually coming back after the game that night. We did not stay in Columbia, and we're listening to the post-game show in the truck, okay? And I think it was a dentist who had sponsored some part of the post-game show for Carolina football, but they came back from a commercial break, Darren, as we often do, and you got to get a live readout for one of your clients. And Brent, welcome back to Carolina football. Gamecocks win tonight, yada, yada, yada. Does your wife have jacked up teeth?
If you want people to pay attention to an ad, right, you get their attention. That works.
Go bold, baby. That's right.
If somebody called up and was like, yeah, she does, man. She's when I got her one time, she had a bad experience with her brother and a baseball bat when they were 5 years old. And she kind of looks like Snaggletooth, but boy, them lips work, so that's all that matters.
I mean, Darren, I literally, if you've ever left, which you haven't, I guess, but the rest of us have. We've all left Williams-Brice Stadium after a game at night, having to go down Bluff Road, and they shift 6 lanes of traffic out. That includes the median.
Oh, I've done it. Not as often, but I've done it.
They've got it cleaned up, but it's still a little tricky, especially for the dudes who are trying to get out of there, been drinking all day. So I literally about drove into every car around me. I mean, I could not stop laughing.
It's like Frogger, Dude,
does your wife have jacked up teeth? So Brent, That's what I stole that idea from you for Three Seeds Wellness.
It sounds like, like West Virginia University football, you're like, welcome to Mountaineer football, brought to you by Mountain Dental. Does your wife have jacked up teeth? Absolutely. You're like, yeah, go take a left at the coal mine, and he's right there. He'll fix your teeth for you a little bit. And we're having a special on wooden fillings.
Well, that's about,
a damn oak can really chew a mean steak.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Brent Johnson. You're the man, Brent. You are the man.
I hope Brent's listening, because he missed out when he didn't hire me 20 years ago. Anyway.
Oh, no.
You'd have had this greatness.
Yeah, Brent, you'd have had this greatness. Yeah,
I'm joking.
Well, I brought to you by Chiclets. Nice, Craig. I like that. Really nice. All right, let me get RB's question in here. I don't even know where the hell it went. There it is. What are the current odds on the next Virginia Tech coach, Freeze, Napier, Chadwell? So look here. I think Darren already said Chadwell's probably up there, and I think he should be. He should be.
Vegas, at least as of earlier, had Chadwell narrowly over Napier, but every name you've heard is on that list. But the current favorites are those two.
So let me. That's why I want to bring JC, because I mentioned this yesterday, and JC's in these circles. He knows the recruiting ins and outs. JC. I mean, look, if you're hiring. I mean, this goes for if you back up the calendar a year to this job being open, or pretty much any other job, I would say in our area, Southeast, mid-Atlantic. I mean, it's hard to argue against Hugh Freeze when you're trying to hire a football coach. But there's a lot that comes with that. And Darren and I were talking yesterday, JC. I may mention, you hire Hugh Freeze, you got a pretty good offensive mind. You got a guy who understands structure, who gets all that type stuff. But everybody that surrounds whoever hires him is going to use pretty much everything in his past to recruit against him. So you're already kind of down the ladder a little bit with Hugh Freeze, but at some point in time, somebody still has to take a shot on him, right? Like how would you assess what you would get in hiring Hugh Freeze at this point in time, and why not?
I'd hire him. I understand there's sort of in the SEC a whisper campaign, say what you want. The SEC office is going to say, oh, no, you're free to hire Hugh Freeze all you want. But, Saban tried to hire him as an analyst right after all that happened, and nobody really in Birmingham tells Nick Saban no too often, and he was told absolutely not. So – the question becomes with him is, we know what's been reported and what's public. What did we not hear? Or what did we hear that nobody could really prove and report? What's out there, that kind of thing. And, I'm not worried about Hugh Freeze recruiting if I'm looking to hire him. I think, colleges ultimately are political institutions, and I'm probably going to be, prepared if I hire him. Just the guy that writes about college football for the Washington Post is going to probably run some kind of hit piece about something that doesn't matter when you're talking about Freeze and all that. But there's something there, because look, I understand that he couldn't really work anything out with South Carolina. That's what I was told. They just couldn't work anything out with him. I was shocked that the Tennessee job did not have any traction at all. They went Tony Elliott, then they went Josh Heupel, and that was it. And he's a Tennessee, sort of a native, he's from Western Tennessee, but
wait,
that would have been a job he would have crawled on his belly through glass to get. And they went with Heupel, so there's something there that's causing this, in my opinion, because, there are very few coaches out there that you go proven winner at the highest level, because do more with less, can recruit against the odds at a place, runs a dynamic offense, can hire a staff all around, a guy that his players love and stuff like that. But Red's drinking out of the turtle pond again. But, it just hasn't happened. And you think about all these schools that they have needs, and you think about the fact that from their boosters and fan standpoint, Hugh Freeze to get people excited, it just hadn't happened. So, and the RB mentions Freeze, Napier, Chadwell. Well, here's some inside scoop. This morning, talking to, again, I have decent connections at Virginia Tech. I used to run the Hokie website for 24/7. We started it, me and some Hokie fans, back in 2014 or whatever. So I have some connections there. Dave Clawson from Wake Forest is a name that I would not –
it's a good name.
Would not count out when you're just talking Chadwell, Freeze, Napier for the Virginia Tech job. In fact, I was told this morning by another source that all 4 Power 5 jobs in the state of North Carolina could be open after this year. Wake being one of them if Clawson leaves for Virginia Tech or Washington. Look for Dave Dorn, maybe like if Iowa State opened, go to the Midwest. I know that some group of boosters will be extremely happy to hire Dave.
Wait a second here. Hold on.
Cutcliffe is nearing the end, and Mac Brown, guys, look at Mac Brown on the sidelines. Does this look like a man that's ready to come coach again next year and go 7-6? I don't know.
Have they gotten, just kind of a side topic here. We're kind of wandering off in outer space, but has North Carolina gotten what they wanted out of hiring Mac Brown? They're 5-5 this year, 3-4.
I think to a certain extent, yes, but a certain extent, no. See, here's the problem if Mac leaves after this year. All that good recruiting momentum you've been having, the fence around the state and all that, it's probably going the way of the dodo bird. Just because his recruiting and the way he approaches it and his connections are so important. So if he bails after this year, and probably will after next year, from what I'm told, I'm saying, well, it got us back to a certain point, but we really need to go make a hire that's going to, because recruiting will dip for a year, but we need to make a hire where whoever gets this job needs to take this talent and win pretty big. Going to the Orange Bowl was great, right? Great. Super last year and pandemic year or whatever. What they did with mostly Fedora's players and then Sam Howell was fantastic coaching, I thought. But, still some time to go. And, Mac, he just doesn't – a lot of people say he doesn't look good. I wouldn't pay any attention to that. I think it's more the record and what you're hearing behind the scenes where people, that they sit there and go, North Carolina could open. That kind of thing. So if I'm the Tar Heels, I'm hoping that he gives it at least one more year. And I'm hoping that information doesn't get out there to where it would hurt recruiting. But, told this morning, all four of those North Carolina jobs could be open. So that'd be wild, wouldn't it?
It's funny, Craig, good timing, because that was at the top of my mind there is, okay, well, if that's the case, and I get it, Mac hasn't stepped out like Steve did a few years ago and said, yeah, I'll probably be around in 2-3 years.
Oh, no.
And the wagons fell off.
No.
But if that's the speculation, how is that? Or maybe it is being used against North Carolina, and we just don't see it or understand it. But is there a similarity there in what this program here at South Carolina went through and Steve Spurrier's final couple of years to maybe where North Carolina is right now and trying to sign players with a guy who's largely believed to be out the door sooner than later?
Guys, that it hasn't affected them so far. And, what they do well at UNC is, they're not out there trying to go recruit nationally like a Clemson or somebody like that. They focus on the guys that are right there in their state. And just like the first time he was there, when he drew the fence around the state, it probably wasn't good enough to beat FSU, but hell, they still can't beat FSU. He's never beaten FSU, no matter how bad FSU's been. And then they've added an element to it as the Virginia schools have either – passed on players, not had the panache to land top players from Virginia. UNC's gone into Virginia and gotten guys, which is smart. If you're UNC, that's your primary base. There's enough players in North Carolina, Virginia. If you get the best every single year, and you're only losing like one or two, you're going to have a roster that can compete to win the ACC. I think maybe a lot of folks with UNC this year rushed it. And I think I get back to the star rating facade that people have. You know, they had two running backs, Michael Carter and Javonte Williams last season, that were elite.
Yeah.
But they were 2 3-star kids out of North Carolina. Fedora sort of beat East Carolina on or whatever. And they thought Javonte would be a safety. And, you know, they weren't recruiting hype guys. And so, but they both got drafted and they both were really good. But I think people just dismissed that and said, oh, well, they've got top 10 classes coming in, so they'll easily replace those guys. But that's not, as we found out by watching Clemson this year and Oklahoma this year and some of these programs, it's not that easy. You know, it's not that these elite recruits won't be elite, but we know football's developmental. So I think that's what happened to those guys. You know, I know from South Carolina's standpoint, it creates opportunity if Mac Brown leaves, not only in North Carolina, but also, like I said, they've been nailing Virginia kids and nailing Virginia kids down. And Shane Beamer obviously has some connections up there. So it would be big for South Carolina if Mac did hang it up, I think. But, you know, we'll see what happens. But that's really an interesting kind of little tidbit I got today.
Yeah, and I would say not just from a head coaching standpoint, if Mac Brown or, for that matter, anybody in the state of North Carolina, any of those schools, if they have job openings, you're going to see assistant coaches shuffle. I know there's a lot of Gamecock fans right now who are probably hoping for a couple of changes in Columbia, so who knows what could follow that. We've already seen some recruiting changes happen at Virginia Tech with a couple of players who the Gamecocks have been in on, some really good ones, who all of a sudden are maybe committed to Virginia Tech, but at least back open to coming to take a look at Williams-Brice Stadium and the Gamecock football program. So we'll see. We'll see where all that goes. You mentioned Dave Clawson. I want to throw this out there too. Gary Patterson is out there, and he's a good coach, JC.
Dude.
This guy could end up.
That's what, when I was talking about Virginia Tech guy today, he was just like, you know, asking my question and being like, hey, you know, well, who would you hire if you're Virginia Tech? I would hire Gary Patterson right now. Mm-hmm. And here's why. And the problem Virginia Tech has is you know, they're talking about recruiting. And, you know, everybody should have known, like, Justin Fuente was not a guy that was going to go in there and land a bunch of 4 and 5 stars. And I mentioned geography earlier. It's hard sometimes to recruit those kids out of Northern Virginia who are closer to DC, who Alabama wants them or whoever. It's a very transient area. The 757, the Tidewater, you have to go through Charlottesville to get to Blacksburg. I mean, it's not easy in state, and I understand the frustration. What I think people missed was Justin Fuente is not only just a guy that tries to get it done in recruiting a different way by evaluating and developing. He's a guy that honestly does not like to recruit, period. And that's a problem, you know, because you go from like a roster where you're sitting there going, hey, where'd they get this guy from? Like what Frank Beamer used to do to, man, there's just no players, you know? and so that was an issue when, you know, Fuente got that job when they were, you know, the conversation with South Carolina and Justin Fuente lasted about 10 minutes. You know, they can't recruit. Oh, sorry, because, you know, the Gamecock roster was in shambles at the time. So, you know, that's the deal there. Now, Gary Patterson is a guy at TCU that's also going to be a lot like Frank Beamer in the sense that he's going to go get players that, you know, people or maybe under the radar, whatnot, and develop them. But Patterson also, if you notice, his later years with the Horned Frogs, he won some battles. Zach Evans was a win. He would get some 4 and 5 star talent. He knows how to put together staff that does that. He's 61. So you think, oh, well, he's a little older, but, you know, you get 9-10 years out of Gary Patterson in Blacksburg. That means he's winning big. So that's who I would hire. If I were really anybody, most anybody out there is Patterson. But heck, if all 4 North Carolina jobs come open, maybe he takes one of those.
Yeah, and I saw also here on the Share Healthcare chat lines from Andrew, who apparently is home with coronavirus. So we hope you feel better, buddy. Thank you for paying attention to us while you're ill. We send you. I'd send you a cheesesteak, but I don't know where you live, so you'll just have to think about how good it tastes. It's pretty good. But honestly, I hope you feel better. But he mentioned Dave Aranda. I mean, you pull this guy. If you can pull this guy, you hire him. And it seems JC, and I know we keep backing up getting into Carolina football, but Dave. I think a lot of people remember Dave Aranda from LSU, but don't know much else about him except for he's now at Baylor. Dave Aranda spent the large majority of his career out west. I mean, I think it was at Hawaii and a bunch of places out west. So I don't know if that would deter anybody on the East Coast or not.
He's a front runner right now at Southern Cal.
That's where I was going.
It looks like they're kind of circling the wagons around him.
They should. I mean, and you know what? If you're LSU, you probably should too. But I know that Scott Woodward is really, Lincoln Riley's name keeps coming up. And Scott Woodward is, I'm not trying to hit a home run. He's trying to hit grand slam after grand slam after grand slam. That's just who he is. So, the shuffling is, here's the thing. It's November, 17th, one month from Eric Church. We think we've seen fireworks in the coaching industry. Holy smokes, guys. I don't know that we know what's coming in December. I think there are going to be some big time changes here over the next 2-3 weeks in the coaching industry. What do you think? Both of you. What do you think?
I'll just say this. I agree. Look, Dave Aranda's been successful as a D coordinator everywhere he's been. And that Baylor job, man, shoot, your second year, it's just like, okay, you take the Baylor job and you're gonna be really awful your first season, but then you're gonna turn it because everybody else has,
what happened?
Matt Rule turned it in his second year, Art Briles, and now Aranda. But here's what nobody's talking about when it comes to Dave Aranda. Dave can coach defense really, really, really well. Okay. Really great D coordinator, D mind. I mean, all that good stuff. He hired Fedora as his OC the first year, and they were awful. Then he went and made a really intelligent decision and hired a guy named Jeff Grimes, who prior to going to BYU as the OC, where he was really successful. I mean, I don't know, sometimes when you hire a guy that hadn't called plays, you're like, oh, well, he's a line coach, so we don't know. Well, he goes to BYU and becomes one of the best OCs in the country from Texas, and Aranda hired him. People want to know, like BYU last year, Zach Wilson, what happened to him? Well, this offense, and they're running that at Baylor now, and it works. I mean, Jeff Grimes is, so if I'm Washington and wanting to hire Aranda or Southern Cal, I'm hoping Grimes comes with me. The issue is if you're Baylor, I think it's a no-brainer to promote Jeff Grimes to head coach. If not, I will point out that Jeff Grimes spent 1 year at Virginia Tech under Frank Beamer, and Shane Beamer was on that staff. So if you're Shane Beamer, and he's available, maybe you think about that. But Jeff Grimes has become, like, almost out of nowhere one of the premier offensive coordinators in the country, and that's a big reason why Baylor is able to do what they do, because they're competent now on offense and they play complementary football to their defense. And you watch that Oklahoma game, it's pretty obvious. So if I'm wanting Aranda, I'm really keeping an eye on Grimes and seeing if I can't do a package deal to get him too.
Do you have a little bit more time, or are you in a hurry, JC?
Yeah, give me I got like 10, 15 more minutes.
Can we take a quick time out and bring you back for about 10 minutes? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, fine.
Okay, yeah, we'll hit a quick time out here. Plug in your comments on the Share Healthcare chat lines, affordable healthcare at sharehealthcare.com, and we'll try to mix that in as well. But I do want to get to South Carolina. Their struggles continue on offense. They got Auburn coming up this weekend. Of course, we're going to preview the game, the Big Gamecock preview show on Friday. But want to fuss and discuss a little bit of that before we let JC run. So hang tight. JB and Goldwater show will be back in just a couple minutes. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesbw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
All right, guys and gals, we all know it's the holiday season and you've opened up your playbook for gift giving. Don't dig too deep because I have the perfect stocking stuffer for your favorite teammate. Gift cards and baskets from 3 Seeds Wellness Studios in West Ashland. Luckily, my wife doesn't listen to our show or she would know what Santa's delivering from the North Pole. Check out 3seedswellnessstudios.com for gift cards and their retail store and have their elves stuff a gift basket full of holiday magic. 3 Seeds Wellness Studios, 3seedswellnessstudios.com to score this holiday season.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and online.
Looking forward to seeing Mr. Davis next Friday night at his annual Toys for Tots show before Clemson in South Carolina. All right, JC Shurburtt back with us here on the JB and Goldwater Show's Power Hour. Wando Power Equipment on Daniel Island. Hey, they can probably help you out for Christmas too if you got the man in your life or the woman. She might enjoy the power tools or the power equipment as well. They've got it at Wando Power Equipment. WandoPower.com. They're located on Daniel Island, and folks come from literally everywhere in the state of South Carolina to make their purchases and to rent from Wando Power Equipment, wandopower.com. All right, JC. So Carolina Falls last week, is I think we all remember, up there against who'd they play? Missouri. So I tried to block it out, but I didn't do a very good job apparently. Yeah. By the way, the Doak Walker finalists announced today, there's only one running back from the SEC on that list, which is shocking with all the great running backs in this league. It's Tyler Beatty from Missouri. So he is he's a finalist for that award, a great award. Ran all over the Gamecocks last week. JC, they tried to make a game of it, make a comeback at the end. They couldn't do it. So we're not going to sit here and spin our wheels and what we already know. The same problems they've had all year have kind of reared their ugly heads again. But as we look forward, at the end of the day, I think South Carolina fans need to hear one message. They are one win shy of bowl eligibility. One win. All right? Get to the finish line, clean it up in the offseason. Get to the finish line, clean it up in the offseason. We can't sit here and bitch and moan about what happened 3 weeks ago or what happened last week. You can't change it. JC, I know we're on short time here, and we're going to talk more about this on Friday, but knowing who's coming up, you know exactly who these teams are, what they do well, what they don't do well, what they're missing because of injuries and things like that, both Auburn and Clemson. What can South Carolina clean up and at least get a victory over the next couple of weeks to get into the postseason with?
Well, I mean, you got to find a way to run the football, but that's been the way it's been all year. There doesn't seem to be a lot of creativity in that regard, and people talk about creativity a lot, and I almost think with the way this offense has kind of evolved, it's almost there's almost too much of an attempt to be creative. If you think about creativity, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Let's say you're writing a great song. Some of the greatest songs have simple choruses, and if you're writing, Shakespeare on a chorus, it doesn't matter how good the tune is and the verses are, nobody's going to understand it. And there's my analogy for the week, folks.
Solid.
But and that's the problem. But look, let me just say this. And the names Auburn and Clemson, if the names were Kentucky and Missouri coming up, Gamecock fans be like, just got to get one of these two, should be able to do it. But Auburn's rubbed it in the Gamecocks' nose over the years a lot. So have the Tigers from the upstate, and that I understand. Oh God, we got to go play these guys. But look, Auburn's got issues. They kind of hit a peak there in the middle of the year. They were looking good against Mississippi State. Then boom, all of a sudden they lose to Leach and company. They give up 40 straight points. Defense couldn't stop them. I don't know what Derek Mason's doing. You've got all year to prepare for the air raid. Offense went bad. Bo Nix went bad. Bo Nix gets hurt. He's out for the year. The kicker gets hurt. And look, we talk about coaching changes in the SEC and all that. You got Harsin who's down there, and I don't want to talk about the ins and outs of this, but he's sitting there probably on a deadline to get his COVID vaccine, or he may get fired.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Bobo coaches their offense, and I know Bobo knows the personnel at Carolina. He's probably licking his chops to a certain extent. And I know Tank Bigsby, who we all know as well, is a great back. But let me just tell you this. Number one, Auburn does not have a great offensive line at all. In fact, Missouri's offensive line is better than Auburn's. I know nobody wants to believe that, but it's the truth. Last 5 games for Tank Bigsby. Mississippi State, 16 for 41 yards, 2 touchdowns. At A&M, 15 carries, 69 yards. Ole Miss, 23 for 140, which Ole Miss, as we all know, can't stop the run in much of anything. They did against A&M. Arkansas, 18 for 68 in a win out there. Georgia, 10 for 28. So Tank hadn't exactly been lighting it up.
Yeah.
And I know everybody's afraid of TJ Finley because of what happened last year. That was last year, I mean, this guy's come in and played well against Georgia State. Apparently, he really did. And I know they like him a lot. I think he's an accurate passer. Doesn't bring to the table what Bo Nix does, though, which is escape pressure, make plays downfield. So if you're South Carolina on defense, and the Gamecock defense plays much better at home than on the road, you got to tighten up against the run. You can't let Tank Bigsby beat you. But there's nothing that says against this Auburn offense that South Carolina can't have a good day defensively. Now, offensively, who knows what will happen? I'm tired of talking about it. Quite frankly, I'm not going to sit here and make any predictions about it. I just last week was so incredibly baffling and disturbing in so many ways that I'm just done. But if you can find a way to run the football, your defense can play well. There's no reason why South Carolina can't win this one. And then, we'll see what Clemson does this weekend. I got a sneaky suspicion the Tigers are going to beat Wake Forest because Dabo owns Wake Forest. But, they're beat up. And they're not going to get all of a sudden miraculously healthy by the time they come to Columbia. I mean, Clemson is a shell of what it normally is roster-wise. And they really struggle on offense as well. They'll turn it over, whatever, and it's in Columbia at night. So there's no reason why you can't win one of the two of the two, which would be absolutely huge. And I think last week against Missouri – obviously left a bad taste in everyone's mouth, but you got to forget it and move on. I mean, if you're a fan, if you're a player, if you're a coach, because there's still a lot left to play for. Even if a bowl wasn't on the table right now, and it is, you still want to beat Auburn and Clemson. I mean, you recruit against Auburn, all the time. Clemson's your rival. I mean, those are important games for the University of South Carolina. So, there's the hope. There's the hope is that, this Auburn team coming in, just like the Gamecocks and a lot of teams, has holes. Yeah, I'm not saying they're going to lose in Columbia for the second straight year or whatnot. I'm just saying, I think the names Auburn and Clemson maybe frighten this fan base a little more just because of the names. And when you look at the teams, though, I mean, South Carolina should be competitive in both of them.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that, JC. And, I was TJ Finley, the best game he's ever had was against South Carolina last year. So, it's on his back again. But that game was in Baton Rouge, and times have changed a little bit. And he's not actually historically very accurate. He's maybe about 54% all time. So
81%,
not great numbers for him.
81% against Carolina last year, and
then he's 81%.
Then 81 against Carolina, then the best. And keep in mind, nobody played defense last season, especially the Gamecocks. The other best one was 64% against Arkansas. He threw it 42 times. I like TJ Finley, and I watched him in other games where they struggled, no doubt. But I'm not, I don't think this is like, Jameis Winston coming to town. I just, people, I think Gamecock fans are going to make him out to be a little more than he is and get worried. But, man, there's a reason when he did not supplant Bo Nix. And there's a reason when you look at Auburn's wins this year,
right?
Bo had good games, man. I mean, you can say people, and again, it's a Gamecock thing because so last time you played Bo Nix, he was awful. Last time you played Finley, he was a Heisman style guy. But there is a reason Bo Nix was Auburn's quarterback and really doing it up until like the second half last week, doing a pretty good job.
Who's got and again, we'll get more into this deeper Friday, but real quick before I let you run here, who has an advantage in this game from the Bobo standpoint? Is it Auburn or is it South Carolina?
I think it's probably a little bit Auburn just because, Mike Bobo, you remember I said, I don't even know if there's it seems like sometimes when you watch South Carolina's offense, I don't know if there's a lot of, breaking down of the opponent, so to speak. Well, Mike Bobo's been in this league long enough. He probably knows players on every single team and their tendencies and personnel and stuff like that. So I think there's probably some plays he can dial up that are going to be problematic for the Gamecocks. But this is a new scheme, and there are some guys back there that didn't play a whole lot last year, and there are some guys, quite frankly, that you could probably pick on last year, that if you pick on them this year, like Jalen Foster, you may have one going the other direction. So, yeah. But I'm sure that Bobo would like to come to town after the, fair, unfair criticism. He took a lot of it was really unfair and based on lies last year. I'm sure he's wanting to show the Gamecock faithful He's pretty good offensive coordinator. I mean, that's the case with any competitor, but I just don't know that it's a big, huge advantage. Now I do think this. If South Carolina goes in this game thinking, oh, they're going to do it, like Zach Pickens had a quote, oh, all he does is run the ball. Well, he had to run it out of necessity last year, man. You go into that game thinking that they've got speed at receiver. They got guys that can make big plays. Carolina's going to be in some trouble because Finley is going to dice you up, and they are going to make big plays in the passing game. But I think as long as Carolina, tries to stop what they need to stop and plays inspired football and obviously gets better against the run than they were last week, I think the Gamecocks have a chance defensively to stay in it, and then offensively we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll cap it off with this, JC, and then we'll come circle back in all of it on Friday in the Big Gamecock preview show at 1:00. But Mike, look, I have a lot of respect for Mike Bobo. Always have as a person and as a coach. And honestly, I wish him the best, except for on Saturday against my football team. But he's dug his own grave with some of this criticism. You can't sit there and tell this entire fan base how much you love the place and you want your family to grow up there week in, week out in these press conferences, and then turn around after you're retained by the new head coach and hightail it to the Plains. That you can, but you should expect that people are going to be frustrated because you basically lovingly and publicly said how much you admire the place because of your family and this, that, and the other. And I think people took that personally. Had he just up and left, no problem. But he sat there and said to their face in a camera every week how much they loved the school system and they loved the city and all the people and yada, yada, yada. And then it's, well, I'm going to go to Auburn. People at that point in time stopped caring about the reasons. So I think that I think people have some justification in their frustration with him. And
I think you're completely fair with that. I mean, that's going to piss people off. I mean, you have to know it if you're a coach, and it's going to make people mad and going to make people kind of question and all that. What I was talking about more about the lies is the whole Helinski thing, and we got into that last year.
Oh, yeah.
He was not playing. He was.
Well, Ryan's proven that now at Northwestern. He can't even play at Northwestern. He's
and it was a matter of, look, this guy's just not. I mean, this guy's regressed. He's not even. He brought in Colin Hill to start right away. And no, thank God they had Colin Hill. They wouldn't have won the 2 games they did. But that was what I thought Bobo, he was kind of a victim of some propaganda at times, and plus they weren't playing well. Yeah. As far as people being mad because of how he left, absolutely. I mean, that's fair game, and Mike Bobo knows that, and that's part of the business. But my thing was more about the whole quarterback situation, as if he's playing the lesser quarterback to prove a point when in a year where everybody's getting fired if you don't win, right?
Yeah. No.
So
I agree. JC, we've kept you long enough, man. I appreciate you sticking around for an extra few minutes. We look forward to having you back on Friday, hopefully previewing a big win this weekend for South Carolina that would get them into bowl season, as we all hope. So have a wonderful week.
Great. I know most everybody would probably, if you had to take your pick of which one to win the next 2 weeks, they'd probably pick the one at the end. But I kind of have the opinion, you win this weekend, you have a better chance really in that game at the end, because there's pressure always in that game, but it kind of, hey, we got our bowl, let's just go play free. So,
I agree.
We'll see what happens. I'm probably not predicting a Carolina win this weekend, but I think some people who are just waving the white flag right now really haven't even looked at Auburn and looked at what kind of team it is or anything.
Yeah, they're going through their struggles, no doubt about it. They're 6-4 coming into the ball game. JC, thebigspur.com has everybody covered. Coordinators met with the media today. You can head over there now or whenever you so choose to. Basketball tonight, they'll be covering, of course, the women's game against Clemson, an unveiling of banners and rings. Tomorrow, Gamecock men have a toughie against UAB, and his staff is hard at work covering hoops, football, baseball, you name it, all of it over there at thebigspur.com. Thanks, bud.
All right, guys. Thank you.
There you go. JC Shurburtt, owner of the BigSpur.com, here on a Wednesday afternoon where it's a little bit warmer in our neck of the woods than where he is up there in Chicago, Illinois. But really good stuff. I know we kind of ran the gamut with him today, Darren, but some neat insight from him in some of these coaching situations, because this is a year, like I said, when it starts all happening this quickly as it has with the major names, when major schools come open, they search for major names, right? And then if they can't get the major names, they go for the hot up and coming names. And that really churns it starts churning that butter, right? And so, and that's from an assistant standpoint. So I guess what I'm getting at is the state of South Carolina this year is going to be impacted with the coaching carousel. How does that mean that Chadwell or Beamer or Dabo and the head coaches in this state are off and running to other schools? That's not necessarily what it means, but it does mean that there will be assistants at all these schools who are probably going to be on boards. And that means that the reversal at all these schools as well. So this state's going to be impacted. It's coming in the next couple of weeks.
You guys got into it a little bit about the coaching carousel and how wild it might be. And I'm right there with you guys. I think I don't know how to equate it with what we've seen recently, but I do think this is going to be a wild offseason, because it's not just the schools that look like they're probably going to open up. Miami probably looks like it's going to open up. If something happens then with others, then the domino effect starts happening. If the 4 Power 5 schools in North Carolina, like JC alluded to,
could you imagine that?
It'd be wild, right? So the trickle-down effect of what happens next will have ripple effects in lots of places, not just South Carolina. It'll have ripple effects in a lot of different places, with assistant coaches on the move, with head coaches on the move. Which guys are you taking? Which are staying back? Which are getting promoted? I think the overall coaching landscape is in for a pretty decent shakeup this year, because there's still a whole lot of questions about the future. Okay, Florida, that I think is opening up too. That's another school that's going to go after a major name. So if major names are actually plucked, then you're going to have bigger domino effects that are coming down. That's kind of what I expect to happen.
I agree with all that. The job that just keeps easing into the back of my mind in these conversations is Oklahoma, because I might be in the minority, but there is a part of me, Darren. Just I don't know. You get a sixth sense sometimes of that develops your hunches as to what coaches will move and won't move. And I think that if you pay attention long enough, in especially in college athletics, that's created by all of these coaches and how they handle the situations each year. Your brain just absorbs these situations, these different scenarios, and you've kind of taught yourself to understand the actions of a lot of coaches, and you pick through their words and their comments and how they say things, right? And I got a strange feeling that Lincoln Riley, there's more of a realistic chance he leaves Norman than we're giving it credit for.
Oh, no. I'm right there with you. I'm right in that boat with you. I think there's a very reasonable chance that Lincoln Riley is going to LSU, or if he doesn't go to LSU, that he could end up somewhere else. Because if it becomes well known, and let's put it this way, if the courtship is currently happening, then it is well known within the college coaching circles. The agents know it, the schools know it, the ADs, they know it. And if the courtship with LSU is going on like that, which it looks like it is, if that job doesn't happen for Lincoln Riley, there's no thinking in my head that says, oh, well, another school's not going to come in and try. Because of course they're going to come in and try. So that to me, it does feel like, and part of it is when coaches jump, there are just a few reasons why they would jump. They're either going to jump for a job they think is clearly better. They're going to jump for something that's going to pay them a lot more, or they feel like it's a little stale where they are, that they've kind of done what they can do, that wherever the program is right now, that I guess to sum that thought up, they feel like it's just time for something new. That happens a lot. That could be a situation at Oklahoma right now. If you just watching this team play this year, it's very easy to think that could be that type of situation. But I can guarantee the courtship is happening. So it wouldn't shock me one bit if Lincoln Riley goes.
No, it wouldn't. I mean, when you think about all the possibilities, I mean, you got to wonder at some point in time, what happens with Matt Campbell at Iowa State. They've kind of taken a step back this year as a program, as opposed to where they were going the last couple of years. That doesn't, I don't think that discredits him or discounts him as still one of the hottest names in coaching. He's still one of the best coaches out there. You mentioned Florida. You know, the verdict is still out on what Penn State ends up doing, or what James Franklin, I should say, ends up doing. Penn State's not going to fire James Franklin, but if James Franklin ends up opting to leave Penn State, you almost wonder with him if James Franklin is better off at an underdog type school. Penn State's blue blood. I know they haven't won a national championship in a while, but I mean, when you think about the all-time greats in the history of this sport from a program standpoint, I mean, they're up there at the top, right? So you almost wonder look what he did at Vanderbilt. If Mac Brown left, how good of a fit would he be at North Carolina? Probably a pretty good one. And I'm just kind of playing games here, just plugging holes. It doesn't mean that I'm speculating any of this necessarily. But what I would speculate is RB's a pretty smart guy, and I like what he's got to say today. RB, you're on your game. If any of those North Carolina jobs open up and Mike Houston isn't considered, what are they doing? I mean, Mike Houston at East Carolina, he's not popping, Darren. You know Mike, all right? We all know Mike from his days at the Citadel. So we get it, and we understand how really difficult of a job it is to win at the Citadel, and not just win at the Citadel, do what he did. I mean, that was
won a championship, championship, but still,
it was stupid. I mean, yeah, that he won 10 games at the Citadel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, guys, hello. That is not easy to do, like, at all. The Citadel is the most difficult job in the state. I mean, this is hard to do.
You can put country on that list.
It's true. It's up there. You know, and then he goes to James Madison and he wins a national championship. And this year people circled it like, okay, how good are they going to be? And, I think after they didn't upset South Carolina, I think people thought, well, maybe he's still a year. Well, I don't know that he is. He's 6-4. They're playing their best football. And the end of the season, I'm telling you, Cincinnati better be very careful next week, because if they beat Cincinnati, all of these jobs we're talking about, people are going to start going, well, why isn't Mike Houston being considered for some of these jobs?
I think you just hit the nail on your head.
He needs a big win.
Yeah, that's what he needs, because he's building. They had a good end of the year last year, and then you pointed out the South Carolina game. It wasn't a fast start to this year for him. It's a good team. He's a guy who has a track record, very lengthy, of winning and winning big. So you expect it to happen, but he hasn't popped at ECU yet. So if all these things open and you combine that with his track record and a massive win, yeah, then I think his name is firmly in the mix. One of them could fall to him, but without popping, I don't know if he's a favorite yet. I wouldn't count him out. I think he'll be there one day. I just don't know what day that's going to be.
Yeah, he just needs a signature win. That's what he needs. He needs a signature win. I mean, the slow build has been there, and he's done that his whole. But he needs the signature win. So I'd say it's a fascinating conversation to have. But it's going to have to end there because our show is almost over. What day is it on the National Day calendar? It's National Fitting Take a Hike Day. Who's next to get canned in college football? Who knows? It is also National Homemade Bread Day. I love homemade bread. Love it. And it's National Butter Day. If you don't make your green beans with a bunch of butter, you're doing it all wrong, man. You got to boil it with butter and salt. It's the only way to do it. Mix in some bacon if you need to. Get it real Southern, but butter. They call me butter because I'm on a roll.
A homemade roll.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, thanks to JC Shurburtt, Darren Goldwater, all of you. We really, truly appreciate it. It's Wednesday. They got those cheeseburgers at the Dog and Duck today, so if you're in town, what are you doing? Maybe go watch some action tonight. at the Dog and Duck. We'll be back tomorrow at noon. We're looking forward to that. As we steamroll into the weekend. Buffalo, Northern Illinois, Central Michigan, Ball State is what's on TV tonight. But it's football, guys. It's November. Watch it. For Darren, I'm Jamie. See you tomorrow.